Hello my loves, I'm Ellie Frost. Thank you so much for being on this channel where we are talking about the multi-dimensional approach to rapidly and radically healing and transforming during and after narcissistic abuse. And this video today is about the narcissist tries to ruin you, right? We talk straight on this channel, and this isn't a nice topic, and I love talking about how we self-actualize and come into our authentic power and truth, but we have to know what we're dealing with. It is a soul. Narcissist is a shell of a human. They have detached from their soul and they're operating with an entity of consciousness that we're calling narcissism, which is why they follow the same sequence and all act in textbookly similar ways. That is more than a personality disorder. It is a spiritual warfare. We read about it in the scriptures. We've known this from ancient wisdom. That's what we're dealing with here, right? The narcissist lives in the realm of confusion, deceit and lies and destruction. They try to ruin you emotionally, mentally, psychologically, physically and financially. You might be lucky enough to have only been suffered in a few of those areas. I know that I had the whole lot, and I grew up in a narcissistically abusive household, right? So I had a very high tolerance level for these people where other people wouldn't have even, you know, given these people a chance. It was normalized to me from a very young age, right? And I didn't even know what this was until the last decade, when I've had to study it. I've had to study trauma. I've had to heal myself, help heal, obviously then use what I know to help other people and understand spiritually what the heck was going on. Because this is the twilight zone. This is not normal. This is not, you know, when you actually think of the experiences you've had and how extraordinary they can be, not in a good way often, then you'll know inside that there's something spiritual going on. It's spiritual warfare, right? And they try and ruin you. Why? Because all narcissistic abuse is an erosion of self, and they're trying to disconnect you from your soul. You won't soul detach, but you will disconnect. They mold you into what they need you to be. They implant two very dangerous subconscious programs in our brain, because so much of what is going on is subliminal, right? And subliminal just means like they are subconsciously programming you, right? If you've done like meditations, you may have seen that on the internet, on YouTube, there's a lot of subliminal meditations where it's easier to, in certain ways, there's easy ways that you can program the subconscious without using your conscious mind to try and override how you really feel. But the narcissist is subliminally, actually psychically, because they're working in the psychic realm, they're affecting you subliminally. So underneath all of this, there's some core traumas. That's why I've understood this, and in my work it's really effective, because even though you may have had hundreds of traumatic events, there are some root traumas that I know what they are, and I know how you can get them out of your system, which is what Sovereign is partly about, as well as many other things like self-actualization and manifestation. But it's about coming home to you and getting out at the root these core traumas, because as I say, even if you've had a lot of traumatic events, it generally comes down to the same basic traumas. And these two programs, that you don't matter and that in your own right, authentically, you don't exist, right? You just exist to be what the narcissist needs you to be, are very damaging. And they kind of then stem out like branches on a tree to all the other sub-beliefs we make under them, you know. But when you get these core ones reset, and you know that you do matter, and you know that you exist, and you start listening to your heart and your desires and your guidance system again, then you are energetically resilient to this type of attack in a whole new way. And I do a lot more on that. So the more they ruin things in your life, steal your joy, yeah, give you memories of important occasions that they managed to disrupt or destroy, gaslight you, take you away from who you are, yeah, the easier you are to control. Happy and fulfilled people are the hardest people to control on the planet if they've got a high level of self-respect and a high level of self-worth. They can still fall for narcissists though. I've told you this. They'll either try and bring you down when you're on the up, or target you at your very worst, or both, and in between. Like, they're just predators. Predators are just predators, right? And it's quite interesting, the people we meet in our height of our trauma. You may be lucky to meet some really good people at that time, but it's also when the vultures come in, and these type of energies really do come and try and attack and get what they can, like pillage from the wreckage a lot of the time, and bring you down when you're rising up. So I think the reason I'm making this video is to just acknowledge and, you know, really help it land that this is highly destructive energy. It's dangerous energy. I mean, I suffered mental, you know, problems. I suffered psychologically, I suffered mentally, I suffered physically, I suffered emotionally, right? I suffered financially, hugely. And so have many of the people that I work with. Not all of them. You might just have it in one or two areas. Obviously, to be able to teach this and overcome it, I've had to know exactly what this is. But it's a very destructive energy that they're working with. Right? Love is a consciousness. Love is an entity. You could think of love as an entity of consciousness, but it's a very abundant, expansive one. There are so many ways we can love and feel love and express love. Narcissism is a very limited consciousness, which is why they all do the exact same things. It's actually very, very limited, but it only goes one way, which is to try and destroy you, to try and ruin you. It's a destructive force. And even if they manage to lift you up, right, it's only because they're love bombing you to crash you down. And the whole thing works in cycles, in waves of extreme ups and extreme downs, extreme ups and extreme downs. And as you carry on in it, the hit gets less effective. It's a bit like being an addict, you know, that they say, like, eventually they need more and more and more of the substance that they're addicted to, because if you're an addict, and there's no shame in that, by the way, narcissistic abuse pushes many people to addiction. So if you're suffering with that, I have total empathy, compassion and understanding for it, right? Because when you're dealing with intolerable situations, sometimes we look for an escape route and we do the best we can, right? And I have got some videos on that on here. When you come into your sovereignty and authenticity, addictions are more easy to fall away, right? But please don't beat yourself up, because these things are very difficult to deal with, right, for us. Anyway, so the cycle goes on, but the hit doesn't feel as good. The high's never as high and the low keeps getting lower. Whereas when you start healing, you're still going to have ups and downs in life, but the rock bottom's never as bad and it keeps elevating, and so does the peaks, right? So I just want to acknowledge, like, if you're here and you've gone through this, or you're in any way in this, there's so much love here for you. Please don't beat yourself up. What I've done in my life and seen with my clients is we're often the hardest on ourselves, and we've actually been through the hardest times. It impresses me on this channel how loving people are. It impresses me how grateful people are. It impresses me how kind the people are. Some of the most loving, kind people I've come through that have been come across through this work, right? Which just gives me faith in the human spirit. So please don't let them dim your light anymore. And people talk about in psychology, oh, it's because they're jealous and all this stuff. We're kind of projecting our emotions on them. It is kind of jealousy, but they just get very evil, very angry of your light. They want to be that attractive. You see, even if you feel that you're not magnetic and you're not, you know, you're hurt by these things, and maybe you don't realize your own worth, and that's a hard thing to do as a human, right? To actually appreciate ourselves a lot of the time, especially after we've been through these kind of cycles. But they see it in you, and they know that they don't glow naturally like that, that their heart, they kind of have a ton of contempt for their victims, because, like, you'll know this if you've dealt with narcissists, because they'll blame you for everything, and they're including their behavior, because they refuse to take accountability and responsibility. So it's like, well, you shouldn't have taken me back when I cheated. Why did you let me do that? Why did you come back then? You know, a few questions like, well, why are you with me then? You know, there's no empathy, no understanding, no willingness to improve, right? So we tend to really be hard on ourselves. And why do you do it? Because a trauma bond is an enmeshment, is stronger than an addiction. Heroin addicts have said that the narcissist was more addictive to them than the heroin. Right? So please don't beat yourself up. You're an absolute warrior to be still standing. Most people could not survive these cycles. We go through the worst and still have some of the best hearts, you know, the most beautiful, loving hearts. So if you're here, by the way, empathy will change the world. Don't dim your light. It irritates them. It makes them angry. They want to have that kind of magnetism, and so they'll try and destroy it in you. But they'll never be able to be that light, because their hearts don't shine so brightly, right? There's a darkness in them. And we can't fix it, by the way. If you've watched my earlier videos, God had to be very, very clear with me on this, because I kept thinking you can heal anyone on the planet with love. You can kill anything that's kind of alive, not soul detached. If you put love on water, the molecules change if you focus love. But with a narcissist, they don't transform. They don't become more loving. They become more exploitative. They exploit you. They take advantage of you. They're the ultimate predators. They often will pretend to be helping you or offer you rescue or salvation in some kind of way, and they will use it against you and target you in ways that is unfathomable for us to understand. Right, so I want to remind us that it is serious. If you want to join Sovereign, the links are in the description. I carved the price back down again, so it's such good value for live coaching, a lot of support, and you get a whole year in there. If you join my mailing list, so if you go to elliefrost.com, I'm going to send out a PDF to that mailing list on communication tools, so statements you can use, so that it's all, you know, I have talked about these things in the videos, but sometimes you just need a toolkit. So it's just going to be a PDF with like 10 main statements you can use to diffuse the energy, especially during the holiday seasons, and just like close a conversation down with any kind of narcissist, toxic person, energy vampire, or if you just want to go and you don't want to be hijacked in a conversation, you know, just some tools of speech that would just diffuse the energy. Diffusing the energy means we kind of break it. We can feel when someone's putting on our energy, right, and it's draining us. So that's the PDF. There's going to be other free resources that I mail out to you, so do get on that subscription list because it's completely free. Yeah, lots of love, guys. Please keep liking, subscribing and sharing your comments, sharing your progress, sharing your challenges, anything that we can be here as a community. And if you can take the next step and join Sovereign, honestly, the value of that is amazing. It's $555. It is extremely good value. It's like it's equivalent of like 2 therapy sessions, and you get a whole year in a supported community with tools and energy clearings and activations, modules, the whole lot. Lots of love. I'll speak to you soon.